Yu-Gi-Oh! The show where all your money and power are nothing unless you can defeat the main protagonist in a children's card game. Anyway, as most of you know, the English version of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime differs significantly from the original Japanese version, which also differs more significantly from the original manga. The English version of the anime came with lots of unnecessary censorship from 4Kids Entertainment, the company that dubbed the show for the US television. Why? Well, surprise, no surprise, Japan and the US are countries with drastically different cultures, and some of the content intended for Japanese audience was thought to be too violent or offensive for US audience. So because of that, scenes or content with firearms, religious symbols, the concept of death, or even the slightest hint of nudity were completely cut off. Now, I'm not here to try to fuel the 4Kids hate fanbase. 4Kids tried their best, but the show in the dub lacks many key elements compared to the sub, since some details had to be changed or straight up removed from the show entirely. That said, I personally enjoyed both versions, although the original is always better in my opinion, so I decided to make a video mentioning all the differences between the English version, commonly known as the dub, and the Japanese version, commonly known as the sub. I also gave myself the freedom of calling out some random bullshit happening in the show, and I will also discuss how the anime changed the story from the original manga, which can be quite the ominous telling. Okay, intro done. Let's jump straight away into episode 1 of Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters anime. Quick disclaimer, in the manga, episode 1 of the anime never happened because, spoiler, the pharaoh mind-crushed Kaiba, putting him in a coma after the duel in season 0. Compare that with the anime where Kaiba's defeat from Yuki in season 0 simply gave him some basic hairstyling advice, since after that duel he stopped dyeing his hair green. Seriously, sometimes I'm thinking we're rooting for the bad guy during the show, but more of that in season 4. It's time to talk about card games. So as the show starts, we get a small intro about how Yami, the pharaoh, is trapped in the Millennium Puzzle, which was put together by Yukimoto. In the dub, it's said that ancient Egyptian kings participated in shadow games which led to a war that would destroy the entire world, and that a pharaoh sealed the darkness in the 7 Millennium items, which makes sense since we see Millennium item users invoke dark powers throughout the whole show. So point to the dub for giving us that information 20 seconds into the show. So in the first scene, Yuki's dueling Joey, who is a complete noob at Duel Masters. Seriously, even Teiya knows more than Joey at this point in the show, and of course, casually wins. The Yuki gang, as I like to call them, then leaves for Yuki's grandpa's card shop, but what I really don't get here is what the fuck Kaiba is doing in this school if he's trying to locate a super rare card. Well, you might say he's a student here, but this is literally the only episode that we see him in a school. Anyway, so the Yuki gang leaves and goes to Yuki's grandpa's card shop, and Yuki asks his grandpa, Solomon, to show them his rare card. Solomon then shows them the Blue Eyes White Dragon, telling them that only 4 of them exist in the world. Kaiba then enters the shop and calls Joey an amateur, nothing new here, with dub Joey and sub Joey having different responses.
Maybe you'd like to settle this with fists instead of card.
なんだと黙って聞いてりゃいい気になりやがって
We all know what happens next. Kaiba falls in love with the Blue Eyes Waifu Dragon, asks Solomon to trade for a bunch of other cards. Solomon refuses, Kaiba tries to buy the card, Solomon refuses again, and the reason is that the card was given to him by a dear friend. So now furious Kaiba leaves calling Solomon a
Senile old fool.
something which is not in the sub. 4Kids already making Kaiba look like a despicable asshole. Point for 4Kids, I guess. What's interesting about the next scene is that Kaiba in the sub is informed that his men have just acquired the 3 remaining Blue Eyes cards.
海馬様残り3枚のカードが手に入りました
So presumably, Kaiba was already a national champion contender without the 3 Blue Eyes cards, which makes Kaiba sound OP if you think about it. This dialogue is not found in the dub, which lets the viewer assume that Kaiba already has the other 3 cards in his possession.
His Blue Eyes White Dragon card will be mine.
So Kaiba sends his men to challenge Solomon to a duel, to which Solomon accepts to teach Kaiba about the heart of the cards. Kaiba wins and calls Yugi on the card shop phone to inform him about his grandpa's location. So how does Kaiba exactly know when Yugi's going back to his grandpa's shop? Did he spam call the shop or something? So the Yugi gang arrives in the Kaiba Corp HQ and find out that Kaiba beat Solomon and got his most valuable card, the Blue Eyes White Dragon, which proceeds to destroy shortly after. Now in the dub, Kaiba says that the reason Solomon is hurt is because he was dueling against a champion, but in the sub he simply says that it was due to the visual simulation, which is something that Kaiba just invented.
I guess playing against a champion like myself was just too much stimulation for the old fool.
ただ僕の開発したバーチャルシミュレーターの刺激がちょっと強すぎたかもな
So Solomon tells Yuki to take his deck and duel Kaiba to teach him about the heart of the cards, which immediately gives Kaiba a massive dueling boner.
面白い
You and I duel.
So Yuki accepts to duel and So before Battle City, aka Season 2, the rules of Duel Monsters were a bit different, which leads to some crazy shit happening in the next episode. But the main ones are: 1. Each player starts with 2000 life points. 2. High level monsters require no tributes to summon. 3. Direct attacks are not a thing. And 4. If you fail to summon a monster while your monster zones are empty, you lose the duel. So the duel starts and Yugi transforms to the Pharaoh, aka cheats to duel Kaiba. At some point during the duel, Kaiba plays a card Negative Energy Generator, which looks like a druid in 2 minutes in Microsoft Paint, until we see the original card artwork before it was censored. Seriously, 4Kids, it's an eye. Also,
with a destructive power of 2300!
Destructive power? Why not simply say attack points?
攻撃力2300
Anyways, after a while, Kaiba says, enough playing, time to use 1% of my power, and turns the duel into a blue-eyed fiesta. Even with swords of revealing light, it all seems hopeless for Yugi, until he decides to cheat again, and get advice from his grandpa, who tells him that his deck contains Exodia. Exodia. Then the name sounds menacing. So now, all Yugi has to do is to stall out until he gets all 5 pieces of Exodia, which results in one of the most iconic scenes in the whole show, of course. In the sub, when Exodia is summoned, a pentagram is formed on the screen, so 4Kids has to censor these by adding another one upside down. Also in the dub, Yugi says, of course,
Exodia! Obliterate!
but in the sub, the attack is called.
エクゾートフレーム
So Yugi wins, and in the sub, Mind crashes Kaiba, saying that he will erase the evil in his heart, while in the dub, he simply says,
Open your mind!
this is why you don't f with the protagonist, Kaiba. Solomon wakes up, and the episode ends with Pegasus being informed that Kaiba has been defeated in a duel, which to be honest is a little strange, since I expected Pegasus to be a little surprised to hear that Kaiba lost the duel. But then again, he knew that Yugi has a cheating item, a Millennium item, so yeah, not too surprising here. So this concludes the first episode of Duel Monsters. Let me know if you enjoy these type of videos in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next duel, or the next episode, or the next both. Anyway, see you later. Bye!